Today's podcast is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. I recently joined as a member, and you can too. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with the advertisers that fit your audience. That's podgo.co at podgo.co.
And please put unprofessional development in the "How did you hear about Podgo?" That will give us a little finder's fee. Thank you.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting episode of Unprofessional Development. I'm Tedisco.
And I'm Mealy. And today we have with us Natalie Vardabasso. Or is it Vardabasso? Vardabasso.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of vowels there. So,
fun fact, if you switch the B and the D, it's Varbadasso. So now you'll never
nice. Wow.
Nice.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And so she's from the EduCrush podcast, and she's going to be part of EduPodLoza, as we just discussed off the air. Yeah.
The Fire Festival of Education.
Education. It is.
Can't wait.
So in addition to, so if you get to know her here, or you get to know her by listening to her podcast, then also, June 27th, I know you've marked it on your calendar because it's going to be an all day, EduPodLoza. It's what it is. So, we're going to do like a little round robin thing here, guys, like we did. If you haven't listened to our Two Dope Teachers episodes, they were ridiculously awesome. So it's going to be less of like her being interviewed by us or us interviewed by her, more than just kind of like the three of us interviewing each other is kind of the idea. And of course, we'll just go
pile of questions.
Wow. Yes. We'll just see how this goes. But we'll let you start though. So describe your education career as a Frankenstein monster that you have assembled.
Oh, I love that. I had to think long and hard about this one. I actually drew it out. I had a body, and I was like,
nice.
I'm way too deep with it. I'm sorry.
Did
so
you
here
get
we go.
Some butcher paper.
No.
Like,
What's butcher paper? I don't
like
even know
the
what that
big
is.
paper that they always slap on the walls during PDs.
Oh,
Yes.
Classic. I wish, like a big flip chart.
Yes.
I could just busted it out for you guys right now. I'd be like, all right, let's start with the body.
Oh.
That
Okay.
worked really well in the
Just imagine
podcast.
that. Just imagine
Yes.
that. Yeah.
And
Since this is a podcast, we could just say, "Oh, look at that amazing thing you drew."
Look at it, right?
That is impressive.
So,
I love
I'm
the color
so
scheme.
multifaceted, my
The
talents.
glitter
What can I
markers.
say? Don't tell people that part to this.
Okay.
That was just a secret. That was a secret for you guys. Anywho, so the body of my work, I guess I would say comes from my years in the middle school. I actually started in high school and I thought that's where I wanted to be, and then slowly worked my way down to grade 8. And when you start teaching, I don't know which grades you guys are currently in, but everyone always looks at middle school like, oh, it's like the black zone. Like, don't go there.
Yeah.
I got there and I loved it.
Too many hormones. Too much
Too many
confusion.
hormones. It's real stinky. Like lots of conversations about deodorant, but at the same time, the kids are so full of energy. But at that weird time in life where they're starting to become aware of the world around them and want to think more deeply and want to ask tough questions. But also if you're like, here's the glitter markers, they're like, yeah. So like, there's just that perfect balance of like, they're kids, but they're a little bit more like, philosophical. So I worked in middle school for years, mostly grades 7 and 8. And then I would say the heart of my practice, like the heart of my Frankenstein's monster, is really creativity. I think that's something that's always defined who I am as a person. And I've always found ways to thread that back into my practice. But then after about 6 years in the classroom, I have actually moved out of the classroom. So the arms of my monster have become instructional design. So I work with teachers throughout K to 12 to actually design learning experiences. And then the legs of my monster flip chart is,
Oh, look at that.
assessment. I know, look at them. The calf is very defined.
Muscular.
Very muscular.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lots of hard work.
Yes.
But it definitely has been assessment. It's something that I've been obsessed with without knowing that that's what I was obsessed with for years. I took a secondment contract like 5 years ago to design a literacy assessment, a performance-based assessment, because I was so embarrassed of meeting with parents to talk about their kids reading, and all I had was like this crappy multiple choice score. And I'd be like, well, they're at 70% reading comprehension. They're like, what does that mean? I'm like, it means that they got this percent out of this percent correct. And then the next time they came in, the number would drop to like 50. And I'm like, we're now at 50. And they're like, what does that mean? I'm like, I don't know. No idea. And then you would try to come up with like reasons like, oh, well, it means I need to read more. Like,
Yes, obviously.
And they're like, that makes sense. You're like, yeah, I am a professional. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, I took this comment contract.
There's two choices. Well, there's three choices. You're a bad teacher. They're bad parents, or they have a bad kid. Like those are the options, pretty much. And there's a 33% chance of all of those. So let's write that number down on the chart.
Yeah. So before you know it, you've got your flip chart out. They're like, no, okay, sounds good. So that's what started me down the assessment path, and I'm now full time in more of an assessment role. So working to support teachers in practice to implement a new assessment framework with a K-12 special education school, and I'm also leading the design of a progress reporting system. So super complex, a lot of emotion involved, and I kind of love it. It's been an interesting progression.
Before we get to further down that, I want to kind of hang out there for just a second. Okay. So do you feel as if a huge part of your day now is re-explaining to people what assessment means to you versus what they think assessment is? Is that like a lot of like what you do?
I feel like the majority of my job is definitely conversation. Yeah. And it's about trying to figure out, like, asking more questions I've found is the secret to this work. Cause you have to figure out, like with kids, right? Too, like, what's the background knowledge? Where are you coming from?
Right.
You're like, okay, assessment equals task, assessment equals test. And then you have to know that that's where you're starting from and not jump too far ahead when you have those conversations. And someone told me early in this work, they're like, because it is one of the most nuanced and misunderstood and understood in a wide variety of ways, ideas, that the number one like aim of my job is just to communicate what it is and why it's important again and again and again and again. And then when I think I've done it too many times, write an article, write a blog post, get it out to the community. That's literally like the majority of what I do. Yeah.
Have you ever thought of like just writing down a couple of your catchphrases and putting them on signs and holding them up like Wile E. Coyote and just saving yourself the lungs? Like,
I really should. I mean, we joke at work that we've got an assessment army because I have a committee of teachers working with me to do the work, and we've now made it to almost 30 members, which is pretty impressive in a COVID year with something like assessment. Like, that's not very sexy or exciting. And I almost feel like we should just have signs we all put in our doors, like it's like a campaign or something. Like, assessment drives learning. People are like, what? I don't know. Does it? Doesn't it measure learning? I'm confused.
And so if you had to like tell our listeners, or one question they should ask themselves when they're designing an assessment, what is the like one nugget of wisdom that you think is like the thing that you are really a really good assessment person? I'm glad that I talked to you. Like,
assessmometer.
Yes.
Assessmometer. Yeah. I think the number one thing is to think of assessment less as a task and more as thinking. That's about it.
Okay. Do you understand that, Disco?
That's a huge shift, right? Because assessment's always been
for the
kids.
Assessment. Like the kids should be thinking for the assessment.
And the teacher. Like, ultimately, I think we've put our trust in tasks and proxies for learning, like a multiple choice test, to go back to that earlier example. And we're like, well, it's my assessment. And you put it in front of a parent. You're like, they're a 70% reader. What does that mean? I have no freaking clue. So that's not assessment. That is just a task that you completed to get a proxy of learning. But assessment is thinking. Assessment is the ability to say, what does it look like? How do I know this person can do this or can't do it? And where are they, basically? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What are their next steps? And then the most important step is getting students to that stage. So creating all the conditions so that students can do all of that assessment in their own brain. And that actually is learning. Like, assessment is learning. That was the biggest epiphany I had, is that if you are taking on assessment, you are learning, because you're asking, what is it? How do I get there? What does it look like? How far am I? What do I need to do next? And we got to give kids those opportunities to do that. Otherwise, we get learned helplessness, which is not fun for anyone. Yeah.
So pop quizzes are great.
Oh, great. Yeah. No. I mean, everything has its place, right? Like, as long as you know why and what the purpose is, and students know why and what the purpose is, and they can explain the learning, then.
So to this go, we have to now assemble our Frankenstein monsters. Did you want to go before me, or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go in the middle because it's forgettable.
Okay, good.
All right, so I would give my monster the brain of, I want to say like Jeff Winger from Community, or what was the main character in MASH?
Alan Alda? Hawkeye?
Yeah, there you go, Hawkeye.
We love 70s sitcom references here.
Snarky and lazy. I feel like that's definitely the brain of the monster.
Okay.
With the heart of Mr. Rogers. So, like, there's that undertone there. There's that love, but then it comes up to the brain and it's like, no, I don't want to work that hard. And then I'd say with probably the face of a bloated Keanu Reeves.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I'd give myself the arms of, I'm going to say Robin Williams. Because I reach out and make a lot of connections and with students into curriculum and do a lot of movement through jokes and through humor. And from all of that, I kind of put a lot of stuff together for them. And then I think I wouldn't have been able to find legs, so the legs are just stacks of books that are just sewn onto it and it just swing around, because if you don't have the knowledge of the literature, you're not going anywhere.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's cool.
I have a great image in my head right now.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So,
You're welcome.
yeah, I didn't thought of it as people, so I just thought of it as...
you took that in a creative direction. I like it.
Yeah, 'cause I'm more thinking of like parts and what kind of teacher I am. And what I've really done, honestly, is I have like amputated so many parts that I had when I first came on. So my Frankenstein monster is going to be like a lot of like stuff that's on the floor, where I was really into like, you know, when I first came out, I was so traditional, like, you know, math teacher. I'm going to do 5 examples. We're going to do a couple examples together. Then I'm going to give you a worksheet, and then we're going to have a test on Friday. And then I'm going to make sure that my grades fit inside the normal curve, so that we have this many A's, this many V's, and da-da-da. And so much of that has, you know, and then we're going to completely forget about whatever that was, and we're going to move on to the next unit, because who cares about the old thing that we did until we get to the final exam. And then I'll expect you to remember everything that I've taught you over the course of the year for some odd reason, as if it was like way more important to you, and as if you were teaching it all day as opposed to having it just one tiny part of your day, unlike me. So I've kind of like I keep cutting those pieces off, and what I'm kind of left with is, so my heart is, do they feel loved? And the torso is, are they learning? And I honestly, what they're learning, until they rewrite the curriculum, most of what I teach them really doesn't matter. Can I teach them how to be problem solvers? Can I teach them how to make connections? Because that's more important than the quadratic formula and imaginary numbers and law of cosines. Like, I'm teaching law of sines and law of cosines. I'm literally trying to like justify it. Logarithms, no one uses a logarithm anymore, but it's still part of my curriculum. And the legs is something that what's holding it all together. We talked about when we had the Making Math Moments Matters guys that I had on, and it has now become just how I teach. And that is spiraling. And it really, it pulls my teaching together. And for those of you who don't know what that is and what that means, is I have broken my full year into maybe like 4 or 5 what would normally be considered units, but instead of going literally this unit, then this unit, then this unit, every day I take a piece from another unit and kind of assemble it piece by piece. So like we do day 1 of unit 1, and then we do day 1 of unit 2, and then we do day 1 of unit 3, and we kind of spiral through them, and then we come back and we hit all that stuff again. So I'm continually like re-looping, and that it makes my life and their life so much easier, because something that's really like kind of at the core of where I'm teaching is realizing how easy it is to forget things. How am I assessing these kids? That's the other part that I want to amputate. I want to amputate exit tickets and check for understandings at the end of the lesson. Oh my goodness. For some reason, I've had multiple admins who think that if they observe you, if you don't have an exit ticket, then how do you know if you kids learned or not? And I'm like, I don't know how many times I've said this, but guess what? I can give them an exit ticket, and I get like 80% of them got the answer right. And the next day I give them the exact same mini assessment when they walk in, and none of them remember any of it. So that exit ticket that I just like, now I know what my kids know and don't know. No, you don't know what your kids know and don't know. You know what is in their short-term memory and what they copied off the person that they're sitting next to. That's what you know.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why spiraling is so important, right? Coming back to it again. And
so
again
keep coming back to it, keep building on it, and keep doing that and checking and going, okay, guess what? You really got it. I say this so many beings of lessons, like, so today, some of you, this is going to be review. some of you, this is going to be like your aha moment. Like you're like, oh, wow. When you explained it like a week ago, it didn't quite stick. And then some of you, it's the aha moment's going to be next week, but stick with me and you're going to get it more now than you did. I feel like my teaching is like there's movies that you have to watch like 5 times because you didn't realize, oh, that's his brother? Oh, I didn't realize. Totally. Oh, it was him all the time. Now that I see him take the mask off at the end, now I get Fight Club, or whatever it is.
You guys have to do that with Mamma Mia too?
No,
it was just so layered for me.
Oh my God, I have no idea what you're talking about.
There's a lot happening.
Cher was in it, wasn't she?
Sure, why not?
I don't know.
I don't know.
You're putting down a movie
Cher showed up, and I was like, "Oh, that's
you
cool."
should have watched it that 5th time.
If you're putting down a movie that Meryl Streep is in, we're gonna fight, okay? Because I love her to death, and she makes no mistakes. She is perfect. All right, so don't start.
Preach. This is true. No, but seriously, the power of the step away, like we don't talk about that enough in education. I was actually watching Mad Men last night. It's like my comfort show, which is really
so good.
Strange. It's so good. I just watch it again and again and again and again. I get something new every time, right? Like you said.
Spiral.
And it was the first time that
one of the best series finale moments ever. Oh my goodness! Oh, I got like goosebumps.
The writing, the music, yes. I could go on. But it's my favorite. It's a great scene where he's first giving Peggy, like, it's Don Draper giving Peggy advice about how to be so successful in this world. And he's like, no, what you need to do is go away and think really, really hard about it and then put it away. And then all of a sudden the idea will come to you. And she's like, and that is there's so much research that supports that. Like there's some things that have been proven through not only common sense in our own lives, but then backed up by research, but yet we don't do them in schools. It's like, oh, I got my exit ticket. Check. Moving on. And it's like, no, like learning doesn't happen that way. We do think hard about things. And then the epiphany happens when it goes back into that consolidation and our long-term memory gets a crack at it. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, hold up. Like, that's just life, and we don't do that.
You gotta let things simmer so they can...
You gotta let it simmer.
You do, you do. The long con. All right.
The long con.
But it's also a little bit for some people, I'm going back to I guess this is 90s. I love them. Maybe it was even, no, I guess, it's 90s. The 3D, posters where you would stare at them, the hidden eye posters, and some people's like, that's what school is.
Ruined that for me.
What's that? Who ruined it?
Rats.
Oh.
I remember it in Mallrats.
Oh, okay.
Oh, but, the guy who kept looking for the boat? All right, I'm sorry.
No, I don't know that reference. But some people, they keep looking at it, and they can't see it. But then all of a sudden, like, they come back later and then all of a sudden they can see it. So,
that's it.
Oh, completely unrelated. So, first one is, my brother bought a Dodge Neon, speaking of the 90s, and his friend convinced him. So it had like this fabric that had all these like little speckled colors in it. And his friend convinced him that there was a 3D image in the seats. And so my brother sat in the back of it, looking at the back of the driver's seat for like 30 minutes trying to see this 3D image that wasn't there because
that's amazing.
That's actually gold. I hope that there's at some point the driver slammed on brakes, so he was like right up close to it trying to get the like zoom in. It was like poof.
Oh, that's so good. Oh,
so good. And
this other one is, I read about this movie. I can't even remember where I read about it because we were talking about Frankenstein. But there's this B movie called Frankenhorde. Have you heard of this? And
Frankenhorde?
Horde.
Like a
horde.
So this guy, his girlfriend had died, and so he somehow preserved her head, and then he went around and like Jack the Rippered a bunch of prostitutes and assembled
good Lord.
Assembled his girlfriend back together.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to make it to the podcast.
Yeah, this will definitely. This will be cut off like the limbs.
That's
of your
fine.
Frankenstein.
But apparently, even though his girlfriend's head was there, the promiscuous ways of the ladies of the evening could not be stopped. And
What is this movie?
I've never seen.
Wait, was this in the back room of Blockbuster? Like,
it might have been. It might have been. I don't know, but like. There's the fact that it exists has me really like, curious. It was someone's answer to what's a so bad it's good movie, and that was like their answer. Like, oh, it's really horrible, but it's actually
playing the correct answer.
Yes, the fact that it actually got made that's the impressive part.
Yes, someone heard that pitch and went, "I want to spend money on that."
Yes,
that's it. Yeah,
I can see it.
Wait, why are we making a podcast again?
Because we like to watch movies and yell about them.
They yell about directors, yell about the plot, yell about the acting, but they also talk a lot. But mostly Josh and Cassie yell about the movies.
Hey, everybody, I'm Cassie.
And I'm Josh.
And we are the hosts of the brand new podcast, Josh and Cassie Yell About Movies.
Each week, we're breaking down a different film and sharing our unique perspectives and holding nothing back.
And fair warning, this is a spoiler-heavy podcast, so yeah, just be aware of that, please.
Do we make jokes, or is there anything else?
Gosh, I hope so. I have fun laughing at you.
Well, thanks. And we yell about movies, is that right?
That's right. We upload new episodes on Tuesdays, so hopefully we'll see you then.
Thanks for listening.
Natalie, before we keep ranting, do you have a question for us?
Yeah, it's a story-based question because I always find it's interesting when you talk to teachers about what they were like as students. So I'm curious what you two were both like as students. You can choose the area of your life, whether it's K-12, university, maybe it's a whole journey. It's really up to you, but what were you like as students?
You going to disco?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. As a student, so in like elementary school, middle school, throughout all my educational experience, I was the weird kid. And so I was just very, very strange. But I'll say in middle school and elementary school is more like annoying weird. Like repeating the same joke over and over again, even though nobody laughed the first time. And then in high school, it was more like theater kid weird.
Nice.
But I'd say, yeah, middle school, my teachers mostly just found me really obnoxious. And then by high school, all my teachers liked me to the point that I could skip class a lot and they'd be like, it's fine. You just missed that test. I'll give it to you later. And
Nice.
I was a really smart kid, so I was really lazy. I didn't do any homework. Did fine on the tests. Knocked out essays. Essays were easy for me. Never read. Hated reading. So I skipped every single book.
That is so weird that you teach English. That still makes no sense to me.
I hated English until 11th grade. I hated here's what I tell my students about English. So English, like books are food for your brain, and your brain's a very picky eater. And in school, the only food we're going to make you is the most nutritious. So it's like every time you came into school, we just gave you a plate of broccoli and said, today we're going to eat broccoli. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about broccoli. And then on Wednesday, you're going to eat more broccoli. And when all the kids really want to be doing is reading comic books, which is like eating candy. Like, yeah, just eat something. So find what you like.
Bingo. Preach.
Oh, see. Wow. Okay.
I mean, I still tell my students, like, I struggle. What I've really found is I don't like novels. And that's almost all that I read throughout my educational career. So, like, because I'll pick up a book and I'll be really into it, and then I'll find something shiny and I'll put it down and I'll pick it up 3 months later and go, wait, who's Jeff? And then I'll forget everything. I'll be like, do I want to start this whole book all over again? So I found I really love short stories. I really love poems. I really love essays. And so I'll read that sort of stuff. And I'm just not a big fan of novels. So I thought that meant in school that I didn't like reading. But it turns out I just didn't like that reading.
There's so much you can read. And especially now in the 21st century, right? It doesn't have to just be print text. Like you could expand text to be... There's a book you'd probably love, quick aside to disco. It's called Readicide by Kelly Gallagher. He's a thinker from California. But it's all about how schools basically overfeed broccoli day in, day out and kill reading for kids before they've even left school. So you'd probably enjoy it.
Really do. Oh, yeah. So I always hated reading until my friend got me to read comic books. And once I read Watchmen, I was like, okay, novels are cool.
Just don't.
So you didn't like Slaughterhouse-Five or Flowers for Algernon or Animal Farm or...
Well, for the record, I probably passed all those tests and wrote all those essays and did not read any of them. So...
Well, you're such a good teacher. You know exactly how to hack the English game. So you're
that's
like,
honestly it. Like,
today.
I know which kids are lying to me about reading.
Yeah.
Oh, I read this, but I forgot. I'm like, you forgot the character's name. So, but it also means I can build this, like, I also knew the assessment. Like, I could go in and, like, the teachers gave, like, those daily quizzes. Like, you're talking about, like, the test on Friday. In English class, the version is, okay, read this for homework and then pass the test, the quiz at the beginning of class the next day. But I was a good test taker. So I could read the quiz, and then I'd paste together what happened in the chapter. I'd do fine on the quiz. I'd know what happened, and I'd never have to read.
Yeah. Bingo.
Yeah.
Same. That was me.
Yeah.
What about you, Mealy? What were you like?
So first of all, aside from the student part, and I really need to get back to it because now I'm feeling guilty because I was a ridiculously voracious reader. I read The Hobbit when I was in 4th grade. Okay. Wow. So I know my 4th grade teacher, I brought it to the parent teacher conference to read because I got drugged to the parent teacher conference and it was on the bookshelf in my house. And I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. And so I read it. And then there was another book that was on the bookshelf because my dad was like a big reader as well. And it was this book by a guy named Pierce Anthony. It was called Spell for Chameleon. And it was a fantasy book about a magical land, and everyone had a talent, and on some day you had to go before the king and demonstrate your talent, and this guy didn't have a talent, and so he got kicked out of the magical land and all this kind of stuff. But it had a lot of puns in it, and it just made me laugh, and it was really cool. And from then on, that author, he wrote 3 or 4 books a year, and I was reading all of them. I had 50 of his books, and I would read a 200, 300 page book a night. Lots of times I would reread them all through middle school and high school. So, but I would also most of the time read the books that I was assigned in English class. So I love Vonnegut. I loved, most of the books that we read, other than I didn't like The Great Gatsby because I didn't like the teacher that taught me that. And, there's another
great American novel because it's that great. It's just very American.
Oh, it really irritated me. But I love Flowers for Algernon, and I love Slaughterhouse-Five, and I love
fun Flowers for Algernon fact when you're done.
Okay. But anyway, I didn't like the school aspect of school. Speaking that 4th grade. 4th grade was at the time where I realized that homework was a big waste of time for me because I'm generally really good at math, and math was in elementary school the majority of your homework, at least it was during my time. Yeah. So you would get and I would just not want to do these problems because I'm why am I going to do more of I know how to add 2-digit and 3-digit numbers and multiply 2-digit and 3-digit numbers. Why am I going to do this for 30 minutes? And so I stopped doing homework. So I developed really, really poor study habits because school was not challenging for me. So and I did really well in the test as well. And I tell people all the time, I got into college because of my SAT scores. I had they had it listed by quintiles, but I can't remember exactly where I was class rank, but I was in the 4th quintile of my class. So I'm in the, bottom of my class, but I always scored in the 90th percentile test. I got 1290 on SATs. And so I got accepted to a reasonable state college. And then the fact that I had no discipline and no study habits caused me to flunk out of college the first time. So then I just kind of flunked out. And I was also I joked around. And the other thing I guess is this is more as a person than as a student. I was also very eclectic in my my friend choices. So I would be hanging out sometimes. I didn't really hang out with the jocks too much, but I would hang out I remember there was a small group of in my middle school of Korean immigrants at that time that was in my middle school, and so I would eat. So I would be the only white kid sitting at this table with 6 Korean kids because I like to play ping pong with them, which sounds so stereotypically racist, but I did. But and just hang out with them, and then I would go over and hang out with some of these some of the black kids, and I would get along with them and have fun with them, and then I would hang out with some of these really nerdy kids that were really intellectual and all that, and then I would just hang out with the goofy weirdo kids and the hippies, and I would just kind of float around. I had my core group of friends, but then I would generally hang out with these just various groups at various times and be kind of I wasn't part of the core, but they liked me and they kind of tolerated me, and that kind of has made me to just go attest to this when we taught together. I could sit down at any table at our old high school when we were at on a teacher work day, and I didn't sit down with the same group each time. And I would just go and I'm just going to. Yes, I really was. And so whenever it came to when they mix you up, I'm like the one that's like, oh, this is cool. Well, now I'm going to hang out with so-and-so and so-and-so and all of that.
Butterfly, more social bumblebee. He just lands on every flower and gets all the pollen.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, like I've talked about this on our podcast before, but it's good. Like I organized a fantasy football league. We have a high school of about 150, 175 teachers, and I organized a fantasy football league where there was like literally 30 teachers that would come out to a sports bar on a Friday night to have a draft, and we had everyone from like gym teachers to art teachers to English teachers to history teachers to like I would literally
just not admin.
No, just not admin. I invited them sometimes, but I didn't invite our certain principals. But they chose not to be at a place where they were faculty drinking, which is probably a wise choice as admin.
Fair.
You know,
yeah.
So
it checks out that you have a podcast then.
It does. That's one of the reasons why I have a podcast, because I just like talking to various teachers from all different walks of life. Yeah.
Fair. I guess I was like very similar to both of you actually. I was a voracious reader, so unlike you, Tedisco, but definitely was a bit of a floater. I don't trust my memories of who I was in school at all, because in my head, I was very shy and very quiet and like couldn't talk to people. But then there's some key moments from my high school experience that you're like, like I started a revolution in grade 9 computers class.
Yeah.
And it's when my dad was the principal of the school. So that is a big event in our family history. It was something to do with, he wanted us to sign like a document that said if we lost any of the materials, we'd pay 10 cents a page to cover his photocopying fees.
Oh.
And I was like, no. And I immediately rallied the whole class and got like this petition put together, and everybody refused to take his materials because they're like, I can't be trusted. I'll lose it. Can't take it. And I was rallying the troops since I got sent to the office, and my dad just said, we'll talk about it at home. And it was terrifying. And the funny thing is, like years later, when my dad retired, I did a speech for for the high school in Vernon. And that computers teacher is now the mayor of the town.
Oh my goodness.
And so he's sitting in the front row.
Led a revolution.
Yeah, and I wanted to tell the story, and I was like, on the moment, I was like, do I do it, lean in. I just pointed right to him, like, there's Mr. Garlic. Story. And yeah, so I think I was really shy, but then my dad will remind me of all those kinds of stories and was like, and you were like a theater kid, and you were always getting into trouble for wandering out of class to go see what was going on in the drama room, so I don't really know. I feel like my whole memories are like misconstrued to who I think I was, but who I actually was in school. But I definitely played the game of school. That is something that's the foundation of, I think, my entire teaching philosophy. Like it sounds like both of you, is I know how easy it is to play the game if you have the basic ability to take information, regurgitate it, figure it out pretty quickly. Yeah. And you shouldn't have to go like 25 years of your life before you really start to like learn and think and go deep and really figure things out.
See, I didn't care enough about the game though. The only way I played the game was I just picked a different class to fail every quarter so that I wouldn't have to like do summer school. So I would like fail English first quarter, and then I would fail social studies.
Pretty solid game
quarter.
Right there.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of played the game, so I kind of knew enough. Not that I didn't want to do summer school, but like I didn't play it well enough, like because if I had just played just a touch harder, just been just a little bit more, I probably could have walked away with a little. Not who cares what my grades would be, but I know that I could have gotten a little better grade wise, but it just wasn't important to me. My parents they sent me to a private school for 2 years to try and like straighten me out, and they just basically poured like $10,000 down the toilet trying to make that happen.
I'll say it probably took till like my second or third year of teaching before I realized you don't have to wait till the night before to do something.
The realization.
I had to do a unit, like plan out a whole unit in college. It was 45 pages. Did it overnight.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Red Bull?
Yeah.
My whole educational journey was sponsored by Red Bull for sure.
I get 2-liter Coca-Cola.
Nice. Yeah, we all had our drink of choice. My teeth were actually rotting. That's how much Red Bull I drank. So that's what caused me to stop. Wasn't the fact that it was a horrible learning choice. It was just that my teeth were getting hurt. So.
Yeah.
Oh, side note. So you mentioned Flash for Algernon twice, and I want to ruin something for you.
It's not true. It's not based on a true story.
No.
I thought it was.
So Flowers for Algernon, they were going to make it into a musical.
Oh God.
And Natalie, do you know the story of Flowers for Algernon?
Not very well, actually. I don't think I read it in school or
Charlie
ever.
is mentally challenged, and he's getting bullied a lot, but he doesn't know it because he's mentally challenged. It's all told in like journal entries.
Oh.
So it's always his point of view. So he talked about like the fun him and his friends are having. They're all bullying him, but he doesn't know. So he gets part of this experiment where it's going to make him really smart, and he's excited because that means like he can hang out with his friends and like have a normal life. So he gets this experiment done. It's successful, but he gets super smart.
Like ridiculously smart. Yeah, what's
God
that?
Genius level.
Yeah, what's
Sounds
that guy when what's his name takes a little pill in the movie with the guy?
Limitless.
Yes, yeah. He's like Limitless.
Yes. And so now he's isolated again because nobody wants to hang out with him because he's smarter than everybody.
Oh, and he's just arrogant and terrible.
Right. And
Speaks
also
19
he's starting
languages.
to realize that he doesn't have any real friends because they're all bullying him. And then he finds out that actually the thing burns out your brain. So, like, it's called Flowers for Algernon because they did the same experiment on a mouse named Algernon, and Algernon's brain burned out. And he died. So we read through these journal entries. We see Charlie starting to lose his grip and like starting to misspell things all over again and losing his intelligence. And
It's very moving. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It's like perfectly structured. It's a great story.
Yeah.
So hold on. Let me ruin something for you. So they wanted to make this into a musical and the musical kind of fell apart. And what happens a lot is if they write a good song, they don't want to just throw it away. They'll use it somewhere else. So for instance, Mary Poppins, they didn't write Feed the Birds for Mary Poppins. They wrote it for like another musical, but they just shoehorned it into Mary Poppins and now it's there.
Let's Feed the Birds.
Feed the Birds? Tuppence a bag. Tuppence.
Poppins.
Tuppence? Oh, okay.
Tuppence.
Does that Feed the Birds? Okay.
Feed the Birds. You don't know this in Mary Poppins?
I saw it like one time.
Oh, me. Okay, so they wrote this musical, and so they wrote this beautiful ending to it, where they're going to write a song about Charlie choosing to go away, and sort of leave everybody while his intelligence is slipping away, and he's not quite understanding that he's going to die, and that how bad things really are, and he's just really ignorant about it. And so they wrote this gorgeous song to make everybody cry at the end of it, and it became Tomorrow from Annie.
Nice.
Oh. Nice.
Oh, wow.
Tomorrow's always a day away. So it's supposed to be Charlie
Oh.
genuinely not understanding what tomorrow means.
Oh, wow.
And not realizing he's going to die.
How about
Oh, that's
that?
a very different context for that song.
Yes.
There you go. Ruined that one for you.
Oh,
Cool,
that's a
that's
musical
good.
theater nerd. I love that story.
Yes.
That's great.
Wonderful.
Anywho, questions. We're still in
Oh, we didn't do our
podcast.
mashup thing, though. Are we supposed to do our mashup
Oh,
thing?
the mashup. That was a fun question.
Yeah.
You do that.
Yeah, because yours is like, you know, your whatchamacallit, the name of your podcast is almost like a mashup.
It is a mashup. Yeah.
Right?
It totally. But if I had to choose one though, I think it'd be like EduCrush is kind of a play on words because it's like, oh, EduCrush, like they're so inspiring, but also like let's crush it. So it's a noun.
Oh,
and a
I didn't know
Also
that.
orange
Okay.
flavored.
Yeah. It's what, sorry?
Yes, orange
Orange
flavored.
It's orange flavored.
Do you know if I'm familiar with Orange Crush?
I totally know Orange Crush. Yeah. All
Okay.
over it. But I think I'd call mine like change-spiration. I don't know if that really works, but we'll make it work. Where it's definitely focused on like, okay, there's a lot of things that don't work. We need to change them. But it provides the inspiration to do so because the people that I get on there typically are ones that have done something. They have had a problem that they're like, oh, I can't stand this, but they actually innovated either within their classroom or whatever it is their field is to change it within education. So by listening, I hope that other people are like, oh, I could do that too. That makes sense. Change.
Nice. I use the phrase snarkspiration in my life a lot.
Nice. Inspiration.
Snarkspiration.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's cool.
Good one.
I do tell people that sarcasm is one of my love languages, so that's kind of tangential
Oh,
to
is
that.
it? Wow. How original.
No, I was going to say
My
that,
native tongue.
Thank you. Mine, and it's so cheesy, but I love it anyway. Is but to describe our podcast, I call it fun professional because.
Aw.
Yeah, because some people, when they hear unprofessional, they think bad things. You know what I mean? They think like naughty, like unprofessional. Oh my goodness, what are they doing? They're like punching kids and doing like, you know, things you can get arrested for. Like, no. We're just doing things that are fun. Like, we're not uptight and we're not trying to do things by the letter of the law or the book. And so
No, I
we're
picked up on that. The word professional is kind of, I think it has a dirty taste in most educators' mouths because it often does mean like policies and following rules and being very, I don't know.
And I feel like professionalism is sort of the antithesis of like being genuine. Like,
yes.
And,
I would completely agree.
I think genuine connection with people is a real important part of education. So if we're too professional, if we're that don't smile till December, like, what are we really doing?
Right.
Exactly. Or don't have emotions. That's what I always hear when people say professional. It's like you have to be super stoic. And if you're stoic, you're never showing up as yourself to connect with the other because we connect through empathy. You feel something, I feel something, we have a connection because of it. So we got to work that part through.
If you have to choose whether or not your teacher is whether your child's going to have a professional teacher or an unprofessional teacher, like I think I want my kid to have an unprofessional teacher. I really do.
You heard it here. There it is.
Yeah. All right, then if I have to come up with a new word, I'm going to call it umpathy. It's like empathy with some oomph.
Wow.
Yeah,
nice.
There you go. Umpathy.
My lazy tongue has a hard time with that. That's like the hardest task on my list. That's all I learned really from my years of theater school and university, because that was my first diploma. And they just talked all the time about my Lisp, and I have such a hang up about it now. And most people are like, I don't hear it.
No.
The things you know. Schooling. There you go.
Sunday. June 27th, join us for EduPodLoza.
There will be over a dozen edupodcasters.
Listen for some rhythm and rhyme.
That's a poetry slam, boys and girls.
Roundtable discussion.
Just some teachers talking about teaching and laughing and having a good time.
Role-playing games.
Oh, yeah. For you nerds out there, you know you're going to like that stuff.
Radio drama.
Dum, 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 dum. Ah!
And really funny people.
At least really funny looking, if nothing else. 1 to 9 on June 27th, Eastern Standard Time. We'll be live streaming. There'll be links. We'll put it on the Twitter. We'll make sure that you know where it is. Follow us at Unprocast if you're not already, because that's probably going to be the easiest way to know when it's going live.
June 27th. Free up your calendar now.
Thank you. So now we're going to do like round robin questions. So to disco, it's going to be like you and then Natalie and then me and then Natalie, I think is how we were going to go. Does that work? Or I can go and then Natalie and then you and then Natalie. And I don't know if we'll get that far or not, honestly.
We might let's just each do one. That's
each do one? Okay.
Yeah.
I have to go first then?
Yes.
Okay. What do you currently teach? And if you couldn't, what would you teach?
Oh, like I said, I'm not technically in the classroom right now. So I guess I teach like everything because it depends on which teacher I'm working with or which project I have on the go. So it's like all things through K to 12, which is really fascinating. But if I could teach anything, like I could pick, can I make up a course?
Yeah.
Does it have to be a real course? Okay.
Heck no.
what do I want to do? I feel like something based in media arts. I know there are courses for that, but like creating a podcast has been such a fulfilling experience right from the get-go. And there are so many channels for kids to make something and actually put it out in the world, which is where the fun comes in, because that's where all the connections happen. I would love to create a course where they actually take something from concept to launch and they've created it, and then it becomes just a community that everyone's then a part of, and you keep coming back to, like our little podcast learning network Twitter chat, and you can like support each other and talk about how it's going. And anyone who does this course, quote unquote, is then a part of that. That's your ticket into the community. I think that'd be really sick.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I teach math. And since since now we're making up classes, it would be, and I would just change it up, and I would have like different one for each, part of the day. And we would just pick a TV show that I liked, and your homework would be to watch episode, and then we would, talk about it, but we would get into like deeper concepts, and we can break it down from both like philosophical standpoint and get into like philosophical debates. And we could even talk about it. It could go off into like, how does this relate to history? How does this relate to current events? How does this relate to science? But it could also relate to, okay, how do we break down the story structure and the character development and the throwback, and how is this reference to this other thing, and all that kind of stuff, because
it's like truly interdisciplinary.
Yes. So I would love to just,
you would
do
teach
that.
Sitcoms 101.
I would.
Cool. A lot of people do this in university now, though, right? Like at my university, one of the most popular courses is one about Beyonce and another one about The Simpsons, because people realize that you just find the high interest vehicle and then you can pretty much teach anything through it.
Right.
So
yeah.
It's kind of
going back to like, I think you made the community reference to Winger, that like the Who's the Boss class.
Yeah, the Who's the Boss class.
Yeah. So that's
Nice.
that would be the what it'll be like.
That reminds me, my fiance had an American Studies class in college. And literally what they did is day one, they just listened to We Didn't Start the Fire. And that was basically their syllabus.
Wow.
Like they just went down the list of everything mentioned in We Didn't Start the Fire. And that's what they studied through.
so awesome.
That is cool. Okay.
One way to do it, I guess.
Are you going to answer your own question, Tedisco?
Sure. So I teach 7th grade English. And if I could teach any course,
It'd be 6th grade English.
7th grade.
I know. Of course, I would teach 6th grade English. That's the really boring answer. Yes.
Honestly, freshman math, I think would be really fun. I love freshmen and I love teaching math.
I would literally transfer out of my school if they gave me freshman math. Like literally, like that's how much I hate freshman math.
I'm going to sound so Canadian, but what does freshman mean? Like what grades?
Oh, 9th grade.
9th grade.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Cool.
Yes. Yeah.
9th year. 9th year.
Yes.
Grade 9. Grade 9? Is that how you say it?
Grade 9. Yes.
Grade 9.
Here in we talk a boot. Grade 9 in Canada.
I didn't even think about making up classes. I would love to teach a class either on mythology, or on film. I would love to do but I honestly couldn't go too deep into it because I never studied like cinematography or anything like that, but just like the themes of film. I think that would be really cool.
You could probably like learn about it with the students though, right? Like, if you love it that much, you would just learn with them about cinematography.
Or maybe just like a film adaptation class. Like, read novels or read Shakespeare plays and like watch film adaptations.
Like debate whether the film's better.
Yeah, I would totally dig that.
My senior year in English, my teacher there, we just watched one. It was called My Name is Nobody, but he literally wrote his like master's thesis on spaghetti westerns that were ripoffs, or not ripoffs, or homages to Greek mythology, and it was amazing. There was awesome. Definitely a school of Italian filmmakers that were making westerns that were basically taking Greek mythology and then just making it a western out of it, which I guess is both cool and I guess a little bit, once you get into it, maybe just a little bit lazy, right?
And Kurosawa. There was a lot of inspiration there from Kurosawa.
Yeah. Have you seen My Name is Nobody, Tedisco?
No. I honestly haven't tapped into a lot of westerns. Seen Magnificent Seven and Tombstone.
Haven't seen like Good, Bad, and the Ugly and all that kind of stuff? No? Okay.
No, I did see Fistful of Dollars and Few Dollars More, but I couldn't. Don't give me an exit ticket on that. I would not do well.
I would fail.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a fun question.
Yeah.
Like that. All right, I can jump in.
Yeah, go for it.
Basically, totally unrelated. But if you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about schools, what would it be?
Just starting time.
Start time? Yeah. What would you change it to?
Anything later.
Just anything.
My kids are always having, especially at high school. Oh my goodness. Mealy, what time does the high school start? I don't even remember.
At this point, I think, 6:45 is like when you can officially is when kids are like eating breakfast. 7:15, I think, is when the first bell rings.
7:15?
Yes. Yeah, sometimes it's been like 7:05, 7:10, 7:15. It kind of floats.
Who has ever met us? Like, imagine school wasn't a thing. Imagine you're just organizing an event and you saw a group of 17-years-olds and like, they'll be up at 7. Yeah. Like, who thinks that?
It's all based on commuting and buses. Getting the buses out before the regular people have to go to work. And so,
no, there's always different pieces to it, but like, I really do think that cripples students. Especially, I see that hurting my low-income kids the most. The ones where their parents are out working and they don't have a lot of people looking over them.
To make sure they go to bed at a time when they should. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Touché.
Yeah. So, my thing would be, speaking of teachers and teaching like all sorts of different things is, and I'm sure there's a school that's like this, but this is my just dream is that, students would complete courses at the rate at which it was appropriate for them, and that regardless of, like, speaking of freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and then we just kind of like did away with the whole idea of them being in a cohort and completing it on a different schedule, because everyone grows and develops at so many different levels and speeds, and everyone has their fits and starts and time where they get done. But it would mean that teachers would have to just literally have to, be adaptable because I could have kids in my classroom who had all different levels, and I would have to be assessing them and instructing them and coaching them and guiding them and going, okay, cool. Now you've managed to do this and you've managed to do this. And so now I'm going to say that you have now, we could still have courses and we could still have, requirements and go, okay, but you've now completed this box is checked. And so cool. And it took you 15 months to complete it, and it took you 4 months to complete it, and that's fine, and you're halfway through, and you're 3/4 way through, and you're going this faster, and I want to experience it. It feels like chaos to me, and I have no idea how it would actually function and how long it would take me to be good at it, but I would love to give it a whirl and see if I could make it happen. So that's
so doable. So doable. Speaking to my heart. I have almost the exact same answer. It's like we have to get rid of the metric of learning just being the completion of courses. I'd even take it a yes and improv for folks. Take it a step further where it's not even about how fast you complete the course, but if you make the whole metric around like 8 core competencies, right? Like you talked about problem solving being like the true vehicle of your math class. And if it's those competencies and those can be defined and described, then students can move as fast, as slow as they need to and go as in deep or as shallow as they want to into separate ones. Like the idea too that they all have to have this certain amount of courses and this breadth and it has to go to this place to get to graduation, as opposed to letting them like develop who they are as a learner and build that profile of like, this is what I can do. Here's the evidence of what I can do. Like I feel like there's so much happening right now in education where schools and districts are moving in that direction. And I'm so excited about that. It's just getting rid of this metric of courses being an appropriate proxy for learning.
right.
And I think that would help allow courses to change and grow. Because like, especially like in English. So you think like 30, 40 years ago, the whole point of English is you need to know who Shakespeare is. Right. And now it's, well, you can Google who Shakespeare is and it doesn't matter. And what I really need to teach you is how to see through doublespeak and people lying and deception and false information. Like that's the thing they need the most from English class, but it's also the thing least covered in textbooks because the textbooks are written 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, there has to be a way that the curriculum, the world is just moving too fast. Like the rate of change is insane right now. When you think about like 2007, most of us probably didn't have a smartphone. And here we are like basically a supercomputer in all of our pockets. And curriculums just can't keep up. Like they can't get textbooks out. They can't get curriculums out fast enough to match what the world needs. So we have to let go of this idea of like a static curriculum. And I think, I don't know if have you guys ever heard of High Tech High down in San Diego?
No.
Oh, there's a great documentary.
It sounds like a Disney show.
It totally does, right? It's funny. It's not actually high tech at all. It's more like a vocational project-based school, but there's a documentary about it called Most Likely to Succeed. I don't know if I'm understanding it correctly, but it seems like they have hacked this really innovative way of going about it where teachers can come together with any other teacher and there's no curriculum. They don't have to adhere to state standards. I don't know how they got away with this. There's no testing. Maybe they do testing. They don't have to teach curriculum, but teachers can come together and it can be like, oh, you're a math teacher. I'm a phys ed teacher, and we've just came up with this project that we're going to do, and this is what it's going to look like, and this is what it's going to entail. And then I think kids have some choice and voice into which projects they want to do, depending on what they're passionate about or what they're interested in. Like, it just seems like that is the way of the future, is it has to be true teacher autonomy, teachers as designers and living in the world and going, oh, I think this would be important for kids, and just building from there, and kids having some voice and say in that, because knowledge is changing so rapidly. To try to be like, oh, this is the core you need is almost impossible now.
Yeah.
So
I was wondering that the other day too. Like, I remember like going to like the YMCA, like after school, and like there were just a bunch of different programs, right? So you can go watch a movie, or you go to the gym and run around, or and they gave you like all these.
Learn how to make puppets.
Yeah, there's a menu. So I was wondering, like, what if like a school did that, where every teacher is like, you know what I feel like teaching this week? Freaking Batman. Like you can just sign up for Batman that week.
Yes.
I don't understand why we couldn't.
Yeah. And I think assessment is usually what people argue against. Well, how would you measure it? And my answer to that is like flip to that competency model where it's got those, you can measure problem solving in your Batman week. I'm sure there's a way you could figure that out. And if you just switch the metric.
Give them a murder to solve.
Totally.
Does the bad guy, do you capture the Joker? Yeah. If the Joker's in jail, then you've solved the problem.
That's it.
Yeah. Bingo. Be very cool. Anyway. Mealy, I think it's your turn.
Yes. So, here's what I got. So we've dabbled in various, so this is like kind of a twist on certain questions that I've asked before, but I kind of like this one. So you have to, because we've talked about fictional teachers, and then we've played the game of college student admin. But if you could take a fictional character who isn't a teacher, okay, but you think that if you made them a teacher, that they would be the best teacher ever, who is that fictional character that you think would really do great as a teacher? I stumped you guys.
I don't think you're going to know my answer.
Okay.
Really?
But I'm going to go with Uncle Iroh from Avatar.
Oh my god.
The Last Airbender.
No idea what that means.
That is a cartoon from Nickelodeon.
Yes.
That came out 20 years ago?
Okay.
No, 15 years ago?
Okay.
But,
so describe the character then. What is it about him?
So Uncle Iroh is very, very patient. He is always giving wisdom, so he's following around his nephew, Zuko, who's trying to track down the Avatar. It's very important. It's a whole saga. You really need to watch Avatar.
Yes.
It's a fantastic show. But he's very wise, he's very patient, he's very humble. He doesn't care what people are saying about him or people are putting him down, and he always tries to just bring everything back to just getting Zuko, who's his only real student there, to sort of see to the future and see, like, well, what's it going to be like when you're an adult? Like, I know how you're feeling now, but who cares? Like, what are you really going to, who are you becoming? So, watch Avatar.
Okay, cool.
I like it. Okay. I feel like I'm going to base my answer in a movie I watched last night because I really enjoyed it, so it's fresh in my mind. But it was called Palmer. It's that new one with Justin Timberlake on Apple Plus.
Huh?
Amazing movie. Highly recommend. A friend recommended it to me. She's like, it's a master class in like identity and teaching, but it's not about teaching, even though the kid's in school. So the premise of the movie is it starts with Justin Timberlake's character named Palmer has just gotten out of prison. He's been in there for 12 years, and I won't say for what. And he moves in with his grandmother, who's the only person who'll take him in. And she has this neighbor who lives in a trailer, has a little boy that dresses and acts like a girl. And the mom is on drugs. She disappears. So the little boy moves in with the grandma, and then the grandma dies. So this all happens like right at the beginning of the movie. So now Palmer, who's this very masculine guy who just got out of prison, is left with this adorable, sweet little boy who loves fairies and princesses and dressing up as them. And so it's just this whole movie about him reckoning with his own identity as he looks at the identity of this little boy. And I think Palmer would actually be a great teacher because the whole theme of the movie is he's gone through something in his life that makes him a bit of a pariah to society. He's a little bit different. He's not accepted by people. And just like this little boy who, you know, is going through some gender fluidity, you know, they're not always accepted by people. And so they find this common ground. And I think the best teachers are the ones that are the champions for the underdog. There's so much about the teaching profession that has to do with like socializing students into the status quo. And any teacher that has something in their own life, whether they were quirky in school or they were the theater kid or whatever it may be, that when they go into the classroom, they recognize that in their students. And they can find that one kid that's in the corner with their fairy wings, like, you know, living their truth and be like, I see you. We're the same. I got you. I think those are some of the best teachers.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
I figure I need to come up with a reference even older than to discos. So I'm going to go even further back. And so are either of you familiar with Columbo?
Columbo.
I know of Columbo. I don't think I've ever seen a single episode of Columbo.
Is it a show?
It is a show.
Oh, no.
So it's a late 70s, maybe
right?
early 80s detective show.
Yeah.
And it's
He always had a cigar?
he had a cigar. He wore a trench coat. He was a detective. And so this was his character. Everyone thought, all the people that he came into contact with thought that he was an idiot. Okay? Cause he's like, he looks very frumpled. He's disheveled. And he comes across as like, he's like confused all the time. But what he always does is he asks the best questions.
Nice.
And he would scratch his head and he'd be like, so I know you said that this happens, but I'm trying to understand, why did you have this thing And he would just continually catch them in all these lies by asking them these questions, like, and so why didn't the brakes work on the car? Why did you take it to the mechanic in the first place? What was wrong with it made you take it to the mechanic? And like, these people are constantly getting frustrated by him, and they're trying to like come up with lies on all the kind of stuff, but he always made the people really think and do all that. So I just love the idea of him asking kids these questions and making them have to like figure out what the answers are to the questions. So I just think that he would make
That's how I deal with
really
misbehavior in my classes a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about the test. You forgot about it? That's so weird. You didn't get a message there? That's so you don't like open your Chromebook when you get home? That's weird because I can check let's look at your history.
Yeah. I find like just the why did you do that is like the most money question for any behavior thing, right? You're like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
And then it quickly unravels and you're like, and there we are.
Well, a lot of times the answer is, I don't know.
Yes.
Really? That's weird.
That
You usually have a reason. It's funny once you get down to it what the reasons are.
Yeah. I have gotten a couple of those. Yeah. The kid will be like really nasty to me. I'm like, what's going on? They'll just start breaking down crying. I'm like, oh dear. Oh, we're in a situation now.
I'm so glad I didn't come in with discipline right now.
This turned into paperwork very quickly.
Right.
Oh. Alrighty. So, do we have more?
I think this is it.
Okay.
I think we did it.
Okay.
Woohoo! We did it, guys!
Yay! Oh, thank you.
Long meandering path.
Yes.
We made it.
Yes.
It was fun.
Yes. It was. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yes.
Thank you to the two of you.
Thank you, EduCrush.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Please tune in. Please tune in, and the link will be in the show notes. The show notes to
It should be in the show notes, Sharon.
to go check out her podcast, and of course June 27th you're going to be tuning in. We're going to be like on Periscope and YouTube and like probably I don't know anywhere things stream. I don't know, maybe we'll be on Twitch.
We'll be streaming.
I don't know where else do things stream,
Mountains and rivers.
Yeah,
mountains and rivers.
Bathrooms.
Consciousness,
we'll be there. That's us.
We'll be there. So we can do that. Yeah. And as we always say at the end, stay unprofessional.